You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Time to sharpen those swords. You're listening to Sabres Semantics, a hard-hitting interview and discussion show featuring players, alumni, media, and all others who cover the NHL's Buffalo Sabres. With interesting stories from the past and current objective analysis, this show is sure to provide an entertaining and unique perspective for both Sabres and hockey fans alike.
Oh, brother, we are not worthy!
Exclusively on the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Welcome into another episode of Sabres Semantics right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Thank you those that are tuned in on our YouTube channel on the video version and those listening in your favorite on-demand audio platform. Make sure to give us a like, hit subscribe, smash that bell to stay up to date with all of our Sabres coverage and other coverage here on the network this season. Make sure to give us a follow on X at Sabres Semantics. Stay up to date with all of our Sabres coverage and our Twitter polls or fan polls for our shows that come up every week on the show. You can also give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok for all of our short reels and content. Brandon Caputo and Austin Broder with you to discuss and preview the Sabres 25-26 season that gets underway. By the time this comes out, will be tomorrow, their first game against the New York Rangers on Thursday night. We're going to go over the initial roster, some quick thoughts on preseason, the roster moves that have been a result of the initial roster, the updated injury report, and sort of the outlook there. And then in part two today, we'll go over the fan polls with some expectations there. And as well, we'll finish off with our season storylines and expectations. So, Austin, with that said, your first time back on the show since I believe was the off-season episode. So yep. Obviously we got through the prospect challenge. We got through the entire preseason. What have been your thoughts in the last month or so of what you've seen from the Sabres as we start to ramp up here and get to regular season?
I mean, I think for the first time, and I'm not going to say the first time, but for the first time, like truly in the past, 3 seasons, general feelings of excitement. Obviously, you don't ever want to take too much from the Prospects Challenge and the preseason, obviously, because they literally mean nothing, especially, coming from two guys that cover junior hockey where we would see players lead the preseason in scoring and then literally be waived the next day because preseason literally means nothing. But obviously, a lot of encouraging signs. The one thing you can evaluate in the preseason is, a couple individual players. And I know obviously a few players stood out for the Sabres, which is good. The guys you expect to be good were good. A couple young guys actually had some nice showings. I know, Radim Murka starting in the AHL, a little bit of a, I'm not going to call it a head scratcher because obviously it was always a possibility given his status, but not where exactly I thought, but clearly earned a longer look at pro with the way that he performed in the preseason. But yeah, just general thoughts and feelings of excitement. Obviously, when we get into it, a few injuries suck early, but, unfortunately, that's what happens. Injuries happen in hockey all the time. And when you are the Sabres, your roster at the top looks really good, but your depth gets a little bit testy. And we're going to find out pretty early in the season just how good their defensive depth is, because missing their key acquisition from the offseason is not exactly a great way to start. But at least it looks like it's not too serious on Kesselring.
Yeah, we got a poll on Michael Kesselring, obviously going to miss some time, and we'll get into that with the injury report. And obviously it's a hole on the second D pair, right? So somebody's going to have to step into that role, or we'll see what sort of happens with that. But you mentioned Radim Murka, Austin. We'll start there because this was our first sort of look at him. The Sabres' first overall pick in this June's entry draft. Obviously a big 6'6" right shot defenseman, played with the Seattle Thunderbirds and still has the opportunity to go back to Seattle to play in the WHL this season if the Sabres so choose to do so. And obviously like as you mentioned, got sent down to Rochester for now, but played 4 games in the preseason, had a goal and an assist. What were your initial thoughts of what we saw from Radim Murtka? And don't want to pencil him into the lineup right away here. Like let's try to limit the expectations, but good first impression for what's possibly to come in the future from him.
Yeah, I know, when he was drafted, a lot of the talk was this is a raw prospect who can have an impact on this team 4 or 5 years down the road. I think he's a little bit further along than that. Definitely a raw defenseman who has a lot of, obviously, two-way potential like we saw. But like any 18-year-old kid, probably a couple of years away, which is
Right.
why I was a little bit surprised, sending him down to Rochester. He did earn a longer look with the professional organization. He played well in the preseason. He had his ups and downs, as any 18-year-old defenseman would, but did definitely not look like too small for the moment. Like you said, no reason to pencil him into this lineup. If he's in your top 4 this year, there's a problem. I would have preferred him to go back down to Seattle. He still very well could, just because I think in Seattle he literally will play number 1 minutes, all situations, tons of minutes. The minutes are a little bit harder to find in Rochester, and also for an 18-year-old defenseman, it's pretty hard to be sheltered in the AHL. The AHL is a good league. But we'll see how they handle him. Like I said, like him going down to get to work with Leone, I think he's a really good developmental coach, obviously coming from the USHL. But the upside with Murtka is there. People got really excited about him, and I think that's a good thing. He definitely popped off and had some really good moments. But like any 18-year-old first-round pick, for the most part, not everyone's Zach Benson or around the league. We're seeing obviously Michael Misa's made the Sharks, even though he kind of looks like a 13th forward right now. But no reason to rush this kid, but plenty of reasons to be excited. The skating, the offensive capability, the physical attributes are there. Defensive game is a little bit further along than I thought, but still patience with this kid because I think he is going to carve out a really long career in Buffalo. But good first impressions from him for sure.
And I forgot to mention that you're doing work with Elite Prospects, Austin, and obviously with the covering the CHL is something that we both have done. And when you look at it from a scouting perspective, like sending Murtka down to the AHL, like you mentioned, if he's going to be like a 6th, 7th defenseman there, or sending him back to the junior program, and whether he stays in Seattle, we know Kelowna is hosting this year, so maybe they go and make a ton of big trades in the WHL, like we've seen in the past, to load up for that Mem Cup, and possibly even one of the other teams that's trying to win the Western Hockey League championship, and maybe Murtka gets moved or stays with Seattle, whatever the case might be. Do you see the value in him being in that 18, 19-year-old range of not jumping and forcing him into pro hockey, into the American Hockey League, and having him play a full season, which he only played 43 games in Seattle, as we know? Do you think that there's more value in possibly him going down again to the juniors, even though he's a man amongst boys down there?
Yeah, no, I think me personally, I think it's more beneficial for him to go down because, like I said, you can't shelter an 18-year-old defenseman in the AHL. If he's there, he can't be your 6th or 7th defenseman because that does him no good. He needs to be playing as many minutes in games as possible. In the WHL, like I said, he can play the number 1 top pair role, but also in the WHL, he can make mistakes. He's going to make mistakes in the AHL. They're going to cost him. It might sound counterproductive to say, he can make mistakes and get away with them in the WHL, but I mean that in a positive sense where he can make these mistakes, he can push the envelope, and if it burns him, he's not going to be punished for it because he is going to be very good down in the WHL, and he'll be able to recover and make up for those mistakes better because he's playing to his skill level. I do think he could be a solid defenseman in the AHL, but the AHL is very tough for teenagers. There's a reason that for the most part, 18-year-olds are not allowed to play in the AHL because 1, the CHL wants their star players back, but 2, it's a different organ. It's a professional league. Leone's there to develop Sabres prospects, obviously, but he's also there to win. You heard Carmano say, we want to win the Calder Cup. We expect to win the Calder Cup this year. Murtka's development is crucial this year. It's a huge year for his development. I would not like to see it not wasted. Wasted is the wrong word. But even today, you heard Rochester basically say it's day to day on what we're going to do with Murtka, but rather than send him down or keep him up here. That doesn't sound like a good developmental strategy. You can't have if he's in the AHL, he's in the AHL. If he's in the WHL, let him go back down to the WHL. because for the long term, he needs to find a home this year, settle into where he's going to play, and just start playing his game. We know he's a talented kid. I don't love the idea of moving him or stringing him along and evaluating him day by day. That's not going to be good for him long term, and it's not going to be good for the organization long term, because clearly they have high hopes for this kid, drafting him as high as they did.
And especially as a defenseman in the American Hockey League as an 18-year-old, a lot even more pressure than maybe a forward would have in that scenario. So,
and there's not a lot of minutes down in the AHL for him right now. Like Zach Jones is down there, Zach Metz is down there. Right now, it looks like Ryan Johnson's on the Sabres, but who knows what happens when Kesselring's going to be activated. That means either Johnson or Bryson potentially are going down, which means another role is being filled. So it just, we'll see what they do with him. Honestly, this could be a bit of an overreaction, because he could just be in Rochester for training camp and then they could send him down, and this was all a moot point. But my overall theme is find him a home and let him stay there. If he's in the AHL, let him be in the AHL. Like I said, I don't necessarily love it or agree with it, but at least, he's going to be down there with a good coaching staff on a good team. But I still think personally, long term, you see him in the CHL this year. I just, like I said, the minutes in the AHL just don't seem to be there for him, and he's not going to benefit from playing third pair minutes in the AHL. He's not going to.
Right. So we're going to have to monitor this Radim Murka situation, but obviously first little sample size of him in a Buffalo jersey. There were some bright spots there, and we'll wait to see him in a Sabres jersey in the next couple of seasons. But moving on to little bit more of the preseason, Austin, it was just encouraging, obviously, to see Josh Norris, be healthy after what he went through after the Sabres acquired him, and the injury scenario and situation's always been the issue with Josh Norris. And I think that's why Ottawa made him expendable in the Dylan Cousins trade. And for him to have 7 points in 4 preseason games, again, we're not going to sit here and start to say that Josh Norris is going to have a great season because he had a great preseason. But for somebody coming off a significant injury, to see him have some positive results so far through the 4 games and playing on that top line with Tage Thompson and the power play as well. He scored some goals, set up some goals. It's just encouraging to see for a guy that you're really relying on this year to be a top center on your team.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it there, right? They're not relying on him to be a top center. They're relying on him to be the top center. He is their number one center, and the way that it looks is Lindy Ruff is going to lean on him and Tage and Benson right now, or at least early on, to be that top driving line. And obviously, I think majority opinion on Norris was, this is a very good player. Just the injuries are always the concern. And unfortunately, when that's your reputation, that's always going to be the concern. I know there are some people who don't think he's that good in terms of, being a number one center on a cup-winning team. But the talent has always been there for me with Norris. The injuries we'll see what happens. Obviously, he looked really good playing alongside Tage Thompson, which is what you want, because we've heard Ruff say since probably or pretty early on last year in the season that he viewed Tage as a wing. Tage obviously said he doesn't care where he plays, and clearly showed last year that he thrives on the wing or center. That's just the type of player Tage has turned into. So good to see them not only playing well, but developing that chemistry together, because these two are going to be relied on to drive the offense from up top on Buffalo. And obviously, like you said, preseason doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I think they match up well, especially with Benson on that wing there. They have the potential to mesh together to be a nice little top line. And like you said, early dividends are good. Hopefully it translates into the regular season for them.
Anyone else you want to mention from the preseason that caught your eye? We got our first taste of Josh Doan. Alex Tuck got back in the lineup as well. Yeah. Yuri Kulich and Ryan McLeod or a couple other names.
Yeah, I got a couple thoughts on Kulich when we get into like our talk about the actual roster and everything there. But for Doan, I just I said it early. Doan's probably quickly going to become a fan favorite in Buffalo, and a lot of people are like, "Why would you say that?" He's not going to wow you with points. That's just not that's not the role he's going to be in, and it's really not the player he is at this point in his career. But he is. I liken him to McLeod in terms of he does a lot of the little things right, and he plays a way that is just easy to root for. He's gonna make some mistakes. He's took a little bit too many penalties for my liking in the preseason, but I also know it's the preseason. The officials are a little bit different in there, but the hard-nosed two-way play with a little bit of offense here and there, I think he's quickly going to become a player that Sabres fans want to root for, because he meshes he's very good at hockey, but also meshes the type of style that a lot of these Sabres fans have been clamoring for, which he does play a little bit of a harder-nosed game, but he's good. He's not like no offense to, Mason Geertsen, but Mason Geertsen is clearly only on this team because he's the closest thing to an enforcer that can exist in modern day hockey. No, Doan is a physical, hard-nosed player who also is good at hockey. And to me, that's the type of player that they need. And I do think we talked about it in the offseason episode, but he's a little bit of an underrated part of this Peterka Kesselring trade. People talked about Doan just as a throw-in. I think he's going to quickly show people that, hey, I'm not just a throw-in. And he's the type of player that I think you can slot top line for a bit, second line for a bit, third line is probably where he's going to be the most comfortable, or on the fourth line, and he'll play his role and play it well. So Doan, I think, is the guy I want to highlight, not because he was outstanding in the preseason, but I just think the style of hockey he plays is going to be fun to watch and easy to root for.
Yeah, and that was our first taste of what he could actually do in a Sabres jersey, right? With the small sample size we saw in Utah and Phoenix before that. But yeah, I think Josh Doan, I mean, we saw it in the embedded about how much Kevin Adams had to go back and forth with Utah to be able to get Josh Doan a part of this trade. So they obviously value him. The only other thing I wanted to mention might sound silly, but encouraging to see Tage Thompson take 20 shots on net in 4 games, because you'd think that wrist is now 100%.
Yeah, the only thing that really, it's hard to evaluate this thing, especially in preseason, but obviously we know the goalie situation, right? It's Lyon. It's going to be Lyon to start. Really does kind of stink that you didn't really get a clear picture of what the goaltending situation was going to be like, because UPL came back and got hurt, which sucked. Georgiev didn't play well, which is why we're in the situation that we're in now. And we don't really know a lot about Colton Ellis, but clearly Buffalo thinks highly of him enough to claim him and throw him right on the roster. So hopefully, based off what Ruff said today, doesn't sound too long-term for UPL, but also we know how Lindy Ruff is with these injuries. He could say he's progressing well, but still miss multiple weeks. So not a lot of clarity on the goalie situation, which is something I didn't love, but this is why you sign a guy like Alex Lyon to be that stopgap guy, and he's shown he can do it before. But it's interesting to note that he's going to be in the spotlight right away.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well get into that as our next point here is the initial roster that got announced, and as you mentioned, still Luukkonen back on the injured reserve after coming back for that one game, re-aggravating something. Michael Kesselring, as we already mentioned, is also going to be week to week. Jordan Greenway has been injured pretty much the whole off season. Owen Power has a chance to play in tomorrow's home opener, so we'll kind of monitor that. And Carson Meyer as well, starting the year on the IR. Again, they put out this roster, and then Georgiev got waived today when they claimed Colton Ellis from the St. Louis Blues, as you mentioned. But I've got it up on the screen for you guys watching on YouTube. But does anything surprise you there? And we got a poll about it, about the forwards and the defense and the guys that are going to make the initial roster here.
Yeah, nothing surprises me. I will say, I know Ruff tried to kind of downplay it and say cautiously optimistic, but Owen Power doesn't practice on the second pair and run the second power play in practice. And you don't waive Alexander Georgiev if all signs appear to be pointing to Power being activated and playing. Otherwise, there wasn't really a rush to waive Georgiev. So that seems encouraging, which is good, because I was talking to a buddy at work, and the defense without Kesselring isn't great. The defense without Power in Kesselring was downright scary. But it is good to see that at least one of our second pair defensemen are coming back. And, for the short term here, if one Power is activated, kind of appears like maybe Johnson's going to get the shot. So I'm kind of interested to see a Power and Johnson pairing for a little bit while we're waiting for Kesselring to get back there. But yeah, obviously I think the big surprise for everyone is just the fact that they claimed Colton Ellis. I think most Sabres fans thought there's just no way Georgiev can be trusted to be the backup with the way that he performed in the preseason and the way that he's kind of played the last, I don't know, you're a Sharks fan. He wasn't good with the Sharks. He wasn't good with he really wasn't good with the Avalanche either. So it's multiple years where he hasn't looked good, which kind of sucks because he did show a lot of promise in New York. But the Sabres claimed Ellis, which, I mean, when you saw all the goalies on waivers, it looked like, this is the right time to pluck one off waivers. Not going to sit there and pretend like I even knew who Colton Ellis was or thought he would be on their radar, but based off Doug Armstrong's comments today, he was like, man, didn't expect anyone to claim him because he had no NHL games, but the second we found out, kind of disappointing for the organization because he was clearly our number 3. So he showed some promise in the AHL, it appears, and the Blues don't seem too thrilled that he got claimed, but good for Ellis to at least have a shot at maybe getting in some games here early on, depending on how Luukkonen's not his situation plays out. But at the very least, if Ellis ends up in Rochester, two pretty solid goalies for the Amherst, and kind of doesn't force a Ratzlaff or a Leaninen into being on the Amherst roster and virtually playing no games. Because let's be honest, Levi is going to get the lion's share down there unless there's a proven guy like Ellis to take some pressure off him.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see those guys get some time in Jacksonville, I think would be the thing to do for the ECHL. But with Ellis, I mean, if St. Louis didn't have Binnington and Joel Hofer, he'd probably still be a St. Louis Blue. So I guess that's sort of
the way Armstrong made it sound, at least.
Yeah. And it sounds like he's been on the Sabres radar for a little while now, apparently, and they were sort of hoping that he would get put on waivers. But we're like, if he does stay on the team with Lyon right now, it's easier with Luukkonen out of the picture right now while he's still injured. But then what happens when Luukkonen comes back? Georgiev, as we mentioned, got waived after being put on the initial roster. So, and again, 3 goalies that they've got right now on the roster.
Yeah, like I said, goalies usually get plucked off waivers every now and then. So, like, obviously there is a scenario where when Luukkonen's ready to come back, they waive Ellis and he's gone, which would kind of stink. But, I mean, we know who knows what the Sabres team is going to do. I don't recommend the 3 goalie situation. We've seen how that works. Especially nothing against Ellis, but like it's not like he's got a boatload of games under his belt, at least at the NHL level. So it's nothing against him. It's not like when Luukkonen's ready, he's not a type of player where we have to keep him in the NHL. You just got to risk it and hope he clears.
Pretty good stats for him with Springfield. I mean, last season, 22, 14, and 3, and 922 save percentage and a 2.63 goals against, a former 3rd-round pick of the Blues back in 2019. So, obviously, like you mentioned, has some upside here, and we'll see how he sort of factors into the competition.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, we don't really know what's going on with Luukkonen until we get some more clarity on that. He's the guy that's there, and for his sake, I hope he gets to get into a game. It'd be nice to see a kid make his pro or NHL debut, I should say. But who knows? I mean, goaltending was always going to be the wild card for the Sabres this year, and with Luukkonen's situation, it brings that even more into the spotlight. That is probably the one thing that could put this team over the top or sink this team. I like Lyon a lot. Obviously, I think he's a really solid backup. He helped Florida a lot the year that they squeaked into the playoffs and then went on a cup run. But it'll be interesting. He's probably happy to get to play, but I'm sure it's not exactly what he envisioned when he signed on with the Sabres. It was like, okay, right away, all the pressure's on me. We'll see how he does. He's a veteran in this league, so looking forward to it, actually.
Are you at all disappointed or just scratching your head about why they signed Georgiev, or do you think that was just sort of like a body to help them through the preseason?
No, I wasn't scratching my head. Honestly, when I first thought the signing was, I was like, oh, like, veteran guy to go play in the AHL, that's nice. And then literally, I think it was like less than 12 hours later, Fairburn put out that, Luukkonen's actually hurt and they're a little bit worried about him. And then the Georgiev signing kind of made sense. I believe timeline-wise, Ruff was the assistant in New York when Georgiev was there, and that's when Georgiev was good. So right. There was the connection there. But obviously, when you just look at how his career had gone recently, it was going to be an uphill battle. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say we can't even watch preseason hockey where we are. Like the Sabres just geo-lock their broadcast. So I'm not going to sit there and pretend that I watched all of his starts, but like obviously the box score raw numbers did not look good for him, and it kind of lined up with what we saw from Georgiev throughout the last year. So there was just unfortunately there's just no way he could be trusted. Do I think the signing was questionable? No, not at all. They needed a body and it worked out. And depending on what goes on with his waiver situation, worst case, there's a worse goalie to have in your AHL organization if that's where he ends up.
Fair point. So we'll see if he does clear to Rochester, or maybe some other team claims him. Who knows? But we'll see what happens there. But it looks like it's going to be Lyon and Ellis until UPL is going to be ready. Lyon's going to start tomorrow in the home opener. All signs pointing to that. So anything else that you want to mention from the initial roster there, Austin, that was posted? Obviously, a couple of names that people might not be familiar with. I know Tyson Kozak played a few games for the Sabres. Mason Gertson, as you mentioned, sort of more of just an enforcer guy. And obviously Colton Ellis, who's a new name as well. But on the defensive side, you've got Bryson and Ryan Johnson, who are known names as well. But anything else there that you want to mention?
Yeah, no, nothing really all that surprising, especially the way that they talked about some of these guys. I think the only really last roster battle came down to when it was clear that Kesselring was going to be on the IR to start the year. We weren't really sure what Samuelson's status was going to be. It became clear there was a defensive position up for grabs, and I think it came down to Ryan Johnson and Zach Jones. I don't think either one was the wrong option. Like, I thought Zach Jones, based off everything that I heard, he looked really good in the preseason. So good to see that, he obviously didn't make it, but he's clearly high on their list. But good for Johnson to make the team early on. Like I said, I'm kind of interested to see if he is the one that gets to slot in on that second pair for the home opener. That'll be interesting to watch. Is this the year he finally puts it all together? Who knows? We know all the skill is there, but I don't think anything is all that surprising. Obviously, just a couple injuries suck, but it doesn't sound like it's all that bad. But like I said, it is pretty hard to trust Lindy Ruff. But I guess once we start getting into it, I'll be able to have more thoughts. But I'm a little bit bullish. I'm a little bullish on the forward group, more than I thought I would be.
My next question with that was when Greenway comes back, he slots into the forward group at some point.
I don't want him back.
For discussion standpoint, Greenway slots back in. You have to take somebody out. Somebody goes down to Rochester. Knock on wood, the Sabres don't have any major injuries. In your opinion, who's the first guy that gets the call up? Is it Isak Rosén? Is it somebody else, depending on if it's a bottom six or top six player? Like, in your opinion, who are the guys that got sent down to Rochester that you expect would be the first name or two to be called back?
I think after the preseason, I know there was a couple rough moments, but I think after the preseason, like, Hellenius has to be high up on that list. He played really well. And unlike a Rosen, I think Hellenius, maybe Östlund, because we saw Östlund play well in a bottom six role in the NHL last year. Obviously, depending on what they do with Kozak, we know he's high on their list, but if he's going to be on this team early on, he might be a guy that goes down when Greenway's active, so he might also. But I think if you look at Östlund, Kozak, or Hellenius, those are probably the first three. When Greenway comes back, in a perfect world, I don't know what they're going to do. In a perfect world, Malenstein comes out and Greenway slots in on the fourth line with Krebs and Danforth. I am oddly high on Danforth. I think he is a nice little Swiss Army knife that you can slot in, and he's just a veteran who's good in this league. Not flashy by any means, but he plays that role well. So we'll see what they end up doing with Greenway. That contract is really rough, obviously, giving him 2 years at that much money, given his injury history. But I think he's still a valuable two-way defensive forward. But you're showing the forward group now, like, I like that top nine. Benson, Norris, and Thompson showed a lot of skill. Kulich, I think, is really good, and it's really good to have him insulated between two vets like Zucker and Tuck. And then that third line, you have McLeod and Doan, who are really solid two-way players who hopefully can stabilize Quinn and let Quinn be a finisher on that line. We know McLeod can play drive play two-way as a center. So I like the top nine a lot. Like I said, I'm way more bullish on this forward group than I thought I was going to be. Obviously, it's not elite high end, but to me they have, and this is kind of the theme with what you're hearing people talk about the Sabres, is they're not elite or high end by any means, but they have a high floor. And to me, that's what I see with that top nine is you have 2-3 guys, Norris, Thompson, and Tuck, who are really high end producers. Zucker's a good vet. Benson could, if this is a breakout year for him, that's massive for the Sabres. So yeah, I like the forward group. Don't get me wrong, it's not like the best forward group in the league. It's not even a top 10 forward group. To me, this forward group has a high floor that should make the Sabres successful this year.
And before we hit the break, are you still looking at it in the way that it's sort of played out? Are you still as disappointed that they didn't go out and get a top six forward in the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, of course, right? Because I like this forward group with a high floor, but that's also assuming Kulich and Benson break out, right? Which they could, and if they could, it's fine. But I just don't love the idea of being in the playoff drought that we're in, and still for a fourth straight year expecting something to happen that we don't know is going to happen. So obviously, a top six edition would have been nice, but I do think this group has a higher floor than I thought. And as the season gets closer, I'm higher on them than I thought I would be, but that is to say that there obviously is still room for improvement. And like we just talked about depth-wise, like the second Zucker, Tuck, or Benson, Thompson, like the second any of the top six miss a game, it's a big hole in your top six. There already is a hole in your top six that's unknown. The second one of them gets hurt, it's problem time.
And I see a lot of hope there with Benson, Kulich, and Quinn, right? So
yeah.
We're going to have more reaction. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to go over the fan polls. We're going to talk about our season storylines and expectations for the team, and as they look ahead to the season opener tomorrow night against the New York Rangers. Stay right here. We're right back on Sabres Semantics right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Whether you just brought home a new furry member of the family or would like help finding something new for your picky eater, maybe you've done your research and want to upgrade your pet's nutrition from an entry-level food, the staff at any of the global pet food stores in the Niagara region would love to help you out. Let them show you why our lesser-known premium brands are so much better than highly advertised big corporate brands. The value from the brands we carry is not only visible in the health and vitality in your pet, but also because you won't need to feed as much as with the other brands. Better nutrition from a longer-lasting bag. We hope to see you at one of the following locations across Niagara: 3643 Portage Road in Niagara Falls, 160 Highway 20 in Font Hill, as well as 400 Scott Street, St. Catharines. Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family. J&L Flooring is a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride and provide elite customer service and support. They are a specialty flooring and decor boutique shop with a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety and truly unique selection of products. All their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced, so you can feel good about your flooring choices. Their goal as a local business is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity. Offering a unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team, they connect with our customers, simplifying the process to make your life easier and to make your home more beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road in Niagara Falls or find out more at jnlflooring.com. If you think you can get a better deal anywhere else, you don't know Jack at J&L Flooring.
Are you currently looking for work in the Niagara region? If so, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road in Niagara Falls. Their many free services include a fully staffed resource area open to the public, resume and cover letter writing, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment, training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, Better Jobs Ontario information, and registration assistance. Check out their website at ehc.on.ca or call 905-358-0021 for more information. The Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work since 1983. This Employment Ontario program is funded by the Government of Ontario. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Talking night in Buffalo. Hey, hey, here we go, the boys in blue, white, and gold. Hey, hey, here we go, make some noise, get in the zone. All for one and one for all, let's hear you from your heart and soul. And we will stand, raising our hands, saying, let's go, Buffalo, let's go, Buffalo.
Welcome back to part 2 of today's Sabres Semantics season preview episode right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Brandon Caputo and Austin Broad of Elite Prospects are back with you, continuing to discuss the Buffalo Sabres outlook as we hit the regular season opener for the 2025-2026 NHL season. Thank you to those that are tuned in on our YouTube channel and video. Make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and smash that bell. Stay updated with all of our video coverage. And thank you to those that choose to listen to us on your favorite on-demand audio platform. You also give us a follow on X at Sabres Semantics, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. So, Austin, again, tomorrow night, the first game for the Sabres. Quite the test, I guess you could say. Well, we don't really know what the Rangers are yet.
I'm not high on the Rangers.
I'm a lot more down on the Rangers than I have been in probably the past 4 or 5 years. I know they still have a lot of the names on paper, but I just something about that team just has a weird smell to it, and I don't know if it's all gonna work. The cohesion there, we saw the Trouba and Kreider situation. So again, we're not gonna sit here and talk about the New York Rangers, but I actually do like, even though UPL is going to be out tomorrow, I actually do like the Sabres outlook for tomorrow's game against the Rangers. I don't know if I'm crazy by thinking that, but
yeah, no, like I just said, I'm very much higher on the forward group than I thought. I'd feel a lot better about the game if the defense was at full strength. And I know they're literally only missing one player on their defense right now, but when you're missing a guy like Kesselring, who you're slotting into your top 4, it makes a big difference for this team, especially when all we've heard from this organization is the defense is going to get better, which will make us better. Well, the main thing, no offense to Connor Timmins, because I think he's a fine third pair defenseman, but the main thing that was supposed to make your defense better was Kesselring, and unfortunately you don't have him. So it does suck. But like I said, I'm not high on the Rangers. I like the Sabres' chances, but we've seen them come out pretty flat in home openers before. I know last year the season opener was in Europe, but that was obviously a disaster. And then even the home opener against the Kings was not. They didn't score. So hopefully this team is juiced up, ready to go. But like I said, the long-term season outlook, I like this team's floor, which I think is what you're hearing from a lot of people. Like when we can get into it now, but like if you pay attention to these, like the Jay Fresh, the Dom Lucian, the Evolving Hockey, the Micah Blake McCurdy, the guys who put out those season projections, most of the models have the Sabres projected around 90 points, which gives you about a 50-50 shot at the playoffs. I know that doesn't sound great because it's 50-50, but like you're telling me, if you told me right now the Sabres finish with 90 points, I'd sign up for that. And if it's a 50-50 shot, I sign up for that.
Yeah, I mean, considering where they've been, and you just hope that, fingers crossed, there's not a 13-game losing streak in there. But when we look at it, we'll start off with the Twitter polls, Austin, sort of what you were getting at with the defensive sort of thing. And again, give us a follow on X at Sabres Semantics if you want to get it on our fan poll. So I'm going to quickly go through these and we'll kind of react to it and give your thoughts. As you mentioned, with the injury to Michael Kesselring, who should start the season as Owen Power's defensive partner, and this is barring Owen Power obviously being able to play in the home opener, which, as you mentioned, he was on the second power play unit running it. So you expect him to be in the lineup tomorrow. Connor Timmins, Jacob Bryce, and Ryan Johnson. I just threw Bowen Byram in as a fourth option. Connor Timmins and Ryan Johnson actually tied this poll. Austin, what are your thoughts? I know you kind of quickly mentioned Ryan Johnson earlier in part one.
Yeah, I mean, I think either one's the right option. I personally, again, when the defense is at full strength, I do like the idea of Timmins and Samuelson as a third pair. So I'd like to see them play from opening night just so you can get a sense of what that pair is. So yeah, I like the idea of Johnson. Give the kid a shot, right? Byram and Power, we know, doesn't really work together well. We know Byram is a good player, but we know he only works with Dahlin, so no point in splitting that up because we know that line works. We know Dahlin will get the best out of Byram. So to me, those are the two best options, and I do hope it's Johnson because we're also – if Johnson doesn't make it now or prove he belongs now, he's never going to.
And you've been pretty high on Ryan Johnson on the show over the years, but
yeah, I mean he's got all the intangibles. Like he's got the skating, he's got it's just never clicked, and
Right. So we'll move on to our next poll here. Poll number 2 is, what is the Sabres' biggest strength going into the season? Forwards, defense, goaltending, and I threw coaching in there. And it was actually a tie with forwards or defense. But as you mentioned at the end of the first segment today, you're a little bit more bullish on the forward group than you would have expected. I'm in the same boat. I think the forward group is actually one of their biggest strengths. That's obviously hoping and projecting that Benson, Kulich, and Jack Quinn have good seasons within that core there. But I definitely think the forward group has a lot more reliability than maybe the D-core as a whole, even though I do think the D-core is improved from what it was last season.
See, while I'm bullish on the forward group and I like what they've done with the top 9, I'm going to go the opposite. I think this defense, the top 6 when healthy, is their strength. You have a Dahlin, who's one of the best defensemen in the league. You have Byram, who's an offensive defenseman, but we know works well with Dahlin. That's your top pair. You get a good pair there. Owen Power. I am way higher on Owen Power than the average Sabres fan. I know most Sabres fans kind of hate him, but he's a very good hockey player. Kesselring, I think, literally will be the McLeod on defense, who just people are like, yeah, okay, like solid player, but I think he's going to show that he's way better than a lot of people give him credit for. And then I like the third pair of Samuelson and Timmins. You know me, I've been saying for multiple years now, Samuelson's a third pair defenseman. Well, now it has worked out perfectly where he's a third pair defenseman on this team. Hopefully I'm right, and hopefully he plays well as a third pair defenseman. I think when healthy, their defense is their strength. And I think this organization does too, because that's what they've been preaching, that the defense will improve. That being said, they are one injury away from, we're going to find out, right? Because Kesselring is not healthy. We're going to find out pretty early on what that depth looks like. But yeah, I think their forwards are, like I said, their forwards have a higher floor than I originally thought, which bodes well for this team because the floor has been the center of the earth for this team lately.
So if Michael Kesselring's obviously when he's 100% healthy, that sort of changes things. But if you've got to move a Ryan Johnson and then Bryson and Timmins might have to move up in the lineup, or Bryson even get in the lineup, that sort of changes things.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I think it was when they acquired Kesselring, or maybe shortly after the Byram contract came out. Not 100% sure. Someone with like an anonymous executive was quoted in the Athletic being like, "I like what the Sabres have built with that top four with Byram, Dahlin, Kesselring, and Power." So people around the league seem to think their defense can be their strength. I also tend to agree when healthy. When healthy is a pretty big caveat, though.
Right. And that moves into the third poll. What is the Sabres' biggest concern? Forwards, defense, goaltending, coaching. Goaltending, 75% was the winner here. Coaching and forwards, 12.5%. Defense, 0. Any surprise from you on that one?
No, not really. I mean, anyone concerned with the forwards, I get it. You would have loved to see another top six. We all would have. So that makes perfect sense. Coaching, I'm going to assume the coaching probably has to do with the special teams, which, yeah, obviously, until we see it improve, we're going to be skeptical on it. But yeah, the overall majority is goaltending, right? Because Luukkonen wasn't good last year, plain and simple. Was not up to par. We saw him 2 years ago be really well, and then the rest of the team let him down. Last year kind of mimicked the year they just missed the playoffs in terms of the goaltending kind of let the team down. We're going to see, right? Luukkonen being out early sucks because, like what I just said, he wasn't that good last year. He is an NHL quality goalie. But we know goaltending can sink or swim a season. When you don't have one of the truly elite goalies in this league, like a Bobrovsky, Vasilevsky, or a Hellebuck, it's basically a crapshoot from year to year. Hopefully, this is the year where goaltending clicks along with everything else. But yeah, if Luukkonen's not up to par when he's healthy, it might not matter how much better the power player of the defense is because you need consistency back there. You need that consistency to give the rest of the team confidence. But we'll see, right? According to Adams and Ruff, playing better defense should help out the goaltending. Hopefully, they're right.
And Lyon and Ellis playing a factor into that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lyon's a quality backup. We're going to see how he fares as a starter early on in the year, but the expectation is Luukkonen to probably get 55 starts this year, leaving 27 for Lyon. I don't know, maybe if Luukkonen's good, that seems about right, but we also saw James Reimer lock down the stretch last year, so to me, this is bang on. Goaltending is the one concern that you should have with this team in terms of their ability to break the drought, right? They're not high end on forward, but they're solid. They're solid on defense. Goaltending is the one thing where you don't really know what to expect.
Put you on the spot. Does Devin Levi get into an NHL game this year?
Oh, yeah. At least one, yeah. There's going to be an injury to Luukkonen or Lyon, and like I just said, like it's not a guarantee that Ellis stays with the Sabres if he gets waived because we claimed him. So clearly he's on teams' radars.
St. Louis could claim him back.
Right? So I will say, yeah, he gets into an NHL game. But the only way he gets – like I will say I will give the Sabres credit. The way they have set up this year to handle Levi, I don't mind. It's been you're going to be in the AHL, and that is where you'll be, and you are going to play a lot in the AHL. This will be a different question next year because Lyon signed a 2-year deal and Luukkonen signed on a long-term deal. If Levi has another season that we normally see from him in the AHL, where let's face it, he dominates the AHL for the most part. If he has another year like that, who knows? But that's a problem for next year. Right now, I like what they're doing with him, but I'd say due to injuries, he probably at least gets one NHL game.
Fair. And then the last poll I put up was which player was the biggest surprise named to the roster. We kind of already went over this, but Colton Ellis, 40% over Tyson Kozak, Mason Gertzen, and now Alexander Gorgiev, who is obsolete because he's been put on waivers. So again, Colton Ellis, I think, just wins that because, as you and I mentioned, we didn't really know who this guy was until yesterday. So
yeah, and I mean, I'll say this: anyone voting for Mason Gertzen on this, I kind of get where you're coming from. But if you listen to Lindy Ruff talk during training camp and stuff, he went out of his way to mention Gertzen early on. So to me, it was kind of obvious he was at least going to make the opening night roster. And I don't really want to puke in my mouth here, but like are we ruling it out that he doesn't trust Geertsen to fight Rempe in this first game because the team has that stupid reputation for being soft? I really hope they don't, but I could see it.
Yeah, fair point. I didn't even think of the Rempe thing, but yeah, that might be something.
Rempe's on power play 2 for the Rangers, by the way. For reasons why I'm down on the Rangers.
And I think Will Cooley's on the first power play. And again, we saw Will Cooley dominate with the Windsor Spitfires, the OHL level. But
I
is
like
he
Cooley a lot.
Is he a
I
top
like Cooley a
NHL
lot.
player? I don't know. I like Will Cooley a lot too. I don't know if do you think he's a top line player? Anyway, we're not the New York Rangers podcast, so we'll move on. But again, it's an intriguing first matchup because we don't really know what the Rangers are yet, and we don't know what the Sabres are, what their floor and how they're gonna if they're gonna play up to their ceiling or play down to their floor, right? So I think it's a good first test for them, and again against one of the best goalies in the NHL, even though he had a sort of shaky year last year, but I think that was just the Rangers in general with all their turmoil. But so thank you to those that contributed for our fan polls. We do those every single week on the show. So before we wrap up Boston, let's get over to our season storylines and expectations for the team. So number one 5-on-5 team goal scoring wise, but that should tell you a lot considering that they missed the playoffs by a hefty sum. What are you expecting from the Sabres this year? And do they finally break the playoff drought if they reach 90 points? You said it was sort of 50-50 as whether they would get in or not. Do they make it, in your opinion, this season?
I'm going to say no. They don't make it, but I am going to say I do think they're in it up till the end of the season, which doesn't sound great. We want the drought to break, but if you tell me like they're in it till the very end on the last day of the season, I feel like most fans probably sign up for that because it's loser talk. I'm not going to pretend that it's not, but being in it till the very last day would at least give us some reason to be invested. Like I was talking to a buddy at work the other day, and I said, I you know how awesome it would be for the Sabres to buy at the trade deadline, like go get a rental to help them maybe push them over the top. Like imagine, the Wayne Simmons and Dominic Cahoon trade. We were shocked by that one because we couldn't believe they were buying. Imagine going into a trade deadline where we expect the Sabres to buy something. Like to me, that would be awesome, which is loser talk. But no, I'm not. I'm going to say they don't end the drought, but I will say this: their 5-on-5 scoring will probably regress a little bit, but this team is built to score. They just are. I'm going to give Seth Appert some credit here. I do expect the power play to be better and at least league average this year, which I could look really dumb, but I'm gonna go with that. The 5-on-5 scoring will regress, but their power play will get a lot better.
And yeah, I totally agree with that. If their 5-on-5 goes down, but the power play improves, I think that's enough for progression there. And yeah, inject a Dinah Zubris to the Sabres into my veins. I would love to see a move like that we saw, back in the day when the Sabres were buying, even they weren't buying the top end guys, they were still making some quality moves for their playoff pushes. That seems like 4 decades ago. But when you talk about the Sabres and last year, Montreal was the last team to make it in the East with 91 points. Actually, them and New Jersey both had 91 points. The Sabres had 79. Again, you take half that 13-game losing streak, they probably make the playoffs. They have to leapfrog 6 teams in order to do so this season. When you look at what's within the division this year, because you obviously have to start with your division in the Atlantic. You've got the Torontos, the Tampa Bays, the Floridas, Ottawa and Montreal, Detroit, sort of, we don't really know what they are. Boston, everybody projects them to be horrible, but again, until I actually see, Boston have another really bad season, I'm not going to say that's going to happen again, because we've seen them be, a very good team within the conference for, the better part of 2 decades now. So within the division and where they're sort of, I guess, what the outlook is there. We know what Florida has some couple of key injuries. We know Tampa Bay isn't quite what they were before. Will Toronto be the same without the Mitch Marner? I know they've made some good acquisitions as well that we never like to give them credit for. But within the Atlantic Division, are you more optimistic than maybe you were last season that they could get into a top 3 spot in the conference, or they're going to have to go for one of the top 3 spot in the division, or they're going to have to go for one of these wild cards?
Oh yeah, they're going to have to go for the wild card. Like I said, I don't expect them to make the playoffs. I think they'll be close. I think you can pencil in Toronto and Florida top two. And I know Florida's missing two guys, but they're still a really good team. They're still deep top to bottom, like without Barkov and Kachuk for a while. I mean, they still have Reinhardt, Verhaeghe, Rodriguez, things like that. Toronto, they're Toronto. I hate them, obviously, but adding Waugh is good. Michelli looks like he could be an underrated player. I will think it might be a little bit more of a slog for them than they're used to, but I think those two you can pencil into the top two. Tampa, until I see Tampa fall off the face of the earth, I'm just always going to believe they're going to be that good because they are that good.
Like 102 points again for them, though.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know about that high.
Right.
I am curious how Montreal handles this because when you look at their numbers, minus 20 goal differential, they reminded me of that Sabres team that missed the playoffs by a point. The only difference is Montreal squeaked in. But then we know when Buffalo got that close, they kind of fell off the face of the earth. I'm not going to say Montreal is going to fall off the face of the earth because I like the Noah Dobson trade. I like kind of what they've done there. But a little bit of regression to the mean for them, I could see that happening. I could see them taking a step back before they take that next step forward.
Because they overshot last year. Everybody expected them to be a lot worse.
Yeah, they have some good pieces. Like Slafkovsky's really good. Demidov's really good. Hudson's really good. But, like, they're young. They're the youngest team in the league. Sabres are the second youngest team in the league. The only difference is the Sabres have been the youngest team in the league for like 5 years. So those young players are NHL vets. So I could see that. Ottawa, honestly, I don't know what to expect. They were really good last year. But they're the Ottawa Senators, and I hate them, and I'm never going to give them credit. But I think you're going Buffalo, Detroit, Montreal, fighting for that fifth final playoff spot. I'm not super high on the Metro, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of what you see there. And the Bruins, like you said, you don't expect them to be bad 2 years in a row. I do. They were really, really bad last year. I know McAvoy is going to be healthy, which will help a lot, but like
maybe Swayman has a bounce back.
Maybe, but aside from Pasternak, who's scoring on that team? Like Geeky was really good, but he to me outperformed expectations. Obviously, he could duplicate it, but I don't see it. So yeah, I think Buffalo is in that fifth spot in the Atlantic, which hopefully has them fighting for that final spot.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Montreal 25.8, Buffalo's 26.48 average age entering into the season as the two youngest teams in the National Hockey League. And again, when you're Montreal and Chicago, you expect to be that when you're in a rebuilding phase. But for Buffalo, you know, they kind of look different in that sense because we've kind of been waiting for how many years now for them to not be the youngest team in the league, because that just means that, you know, you people think that you're going to be good, but when? And we're still waiting here for the Sabres to take that next step forward. But again, as you mentioned, I think, yeah, I think it's going to be too many teams to pass, especially like with the Metro teams with the wild card. I just don't see, like, I could see a possibility of Buffalo being better than Detroit, Montreal, and Ottawa. But to me, that doesn't even still put you top three in the division with Tampa, Florida, and Toronto. So then it just depends on what happens over in the Metro, and you got the leapfrog couple of those teams, and 6 teams overall from where they were last year. And again, Boston always plays Buffalo tough too. So I just, as much as I want the drought to end, I just don't see the clear path that says for sure this team's going to be a playoff team. Yep. But again, if they give that 50-50 shot, as you mentioned, at 90 points, I think we got to take it at this point.
Yeah, like I said, I don't expect them to make it, but I expect them to be close. And mostly, like what you said, there's a lot of teams they have to leapfrog. I will say this, again, I am not discrediting Montreal at all. I think they are very good. They're going in the right direction. It is just very hard to see the advanced stats. They got beat bad a lot of games. They had a negative 20 goal differential. They had the same goal differential as the Sabres. Like I said, they're going to be a really good team, probably top 3 in that division for many years to come. I wouldn't be shocked if they kind of fell back a little bit. And I think with the East, we're seeing the same thing for now the third straight year where, like, I just don't think the East is that good. So 90 points could get the Sabres in. So if they are there, like, I wouldn't be shocked. It seems like a third year in a row now, which obviously this could look really dumb at the end of the year. But like 2 years ago when the Sabres, or 3 years ago when the Sabres barely squeaked in at 91, it was whatever. 2 years ago, the East was really bad. Buffalo failed to take a step forward. Last year, the East wasn't that good. They're begging for someone to take that spot. It went to Montreal. I wouldn't be surprised this year again if 89 to 92 points gets you in. And the Sabres are projected to be in the mix, and that's really all I can ask for right now. I think we're getting to year 15, but I think we're getting to year 15 in a way that we're not miserable. We're going to be miserable when they miss because we're just going to be because it's been so long. But I think this year will look a little different. And I'm also fully prepared if this team makes the playoffs. I probably means we're stuck with the front office that we have, which is a whole another conversation for a different day. But I think a lot of reasons to be hopeful this year. I can't pencil them into the playoffs. I can't, but
Nope.
I'm hopeful.
Yeah, you can't expect them anything with this franchise. So
Yeah.
Again, we saw that they're making some changes with the season ticket holders, which is nice. But again, we'll have to see what happens on the ice.
And I will say, home opener is looking pretty good. I was a little bit worried. I was worried that it wasn't going to be a good crowd. Tickets are looking sold. It's a good thing. This is the one game where you can have hope. What happens after that, I don't know. But I was worried it was going to be a bad crowd. It doesn't look like it's going to be a bad crowd.
I think they were giving away tickets with a flex pack for the home opener.
They were, and I will say, I was thinking about maybe trying to buy a ticket to the home opener 2 weeks ago. They were about $50 where I like to sit in the 300 level, $50 US. Those are now up to $70. So
wow,
there's some demand. That's good. Like I said, reasons to be optimistic. Not gonna lie, the second I wake up Thursday morning, I'm gonna be giddy. I'm gonna be all the way back. I'm gonna be all the way in on this team, and just hopefully they're in it till the end. Like I said, that's my expectation is that they're gonna be. We'll see.
We got a couple more minutes here. Are there any other season storylines you're looking at? And I think you mentioned Kulich a little bit in the first segment.
Yeah, Kulich. I guess you can kind of throw in for very different reasons. It's Kulich, it's Benson, and Quinn. Those are the three storylines because to me, if two of those three players take a significant step forward, Sabres are going to be in good shape. And I think, obviously the way that they've structured the lines, I think Benson's set up to take a step forward. I know a lot of people talk about how his scoring needs to step up. I will say this, Benson's gift is his tenacity on the forecheck and his passing. And when you're on a line with Thompson and Norris as a third option, you're probably not going to be the finisher because Norris and Thompson are the finishers. I wouldn't be surprised if Benson just puts up some nice assist numbers this year if he gets to stay healthy and produces with that line. I just really like the way that they are. I was worried about Kulich being penciled into the top six center, but early on in the season, like I said, with Zucker and Tuck on his wings, it does seem like they understood Kulich is good. He has potential to be the top six, but we need to help him out early on. And I just think getting to play with two veterans like Tuck and Zucker is the perfect scenario for him. I guess the other storyline, if Quinn is good, we're fine. I'm not sure what to expect there, but Quinn as a third line winger, I'm good with. I guess the one thing we should talk about real quick to end here is the Tuck situation. By all accounts, it seems like they're open to getting something done. I don't think it gets done before the season. If you would ask me 2 weeks ago, I would have thought it did. I don't think it does anymore. But it was very encouraging to hear Tuck say at his first time talking that he wants to be here because I know at the end of the year it wasn't fully said. But hopefully Kevin Adams can get something done. Hopefully this season is because you need to be good and you need to get Tuck signed. So I guess that is the one storyline off the ice that everyone will be monitoring. We'll see if Kaprizov and McDavid signing gets the ball rolling for some of these guys. I know it was like Eichel, Kempe. Obviously, Tuck's not in the Eichel level, but I think Tuck and Kempe are pretty good comparable. So hopefully we see something there because that'd be a good piece of goodwill for this team to get Tuck signed. I don't think it gets done before the season. Not to say he leaves. I think he ends up signing. I just don't think it gets done before the season. But that is one thing I will be monitoring because it's a pretty big deal.
And it's murkier once you get into the season with a guy that's going to become an unrestricted free agent because then once you get the trade deadline, do you move him? But again, if Alex Tuck wants to be a Buffalo Sabre, they got to get this thing done. And as you mentioned, with some of those other contracts that got done right before the season, you're wondering if Alex Tuck's name was going to be involved in that. That was my one, biggest season storyline is the veterans on this team have to be healthy.
Yeah.
Tage has to play a full season, not have the wrist injury.
Yep.
Tuck can't be injured. Norris has to play a full season, which, knock on wood, for him would be like 70 games. If we get 70 games out of 82 out of Norris,
Yeah, you sign up for that.
I would sign up for it every day.
Yep.
But if he's playing 45, 50, then I'm sort of not okay with it. And making sure that Ryan McLeod can step in that role, but you want to have Norris in there because you obviously, in that big trade with Dylan Cousins, that was the whole reason you got Josh Norris. So for me, it's the Tuck, Thompson, and Norris staying healthy this season. And I know the Olympics are going to come into that in the condensed schedule, with you playing a lot of games when you have that month off for the Olympics. So making sure everybody's healthy, I think, is going to be the number one thing for the vets, because those are the guys who are going to be relied upon on the forward group.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another storyline to monitor too. Is the health? I like that because that will be key. Having people slotted in their correct position will be paramount for the Sabres' success, and the best way to do that with the depth that they do have or do not have, for other words, is to stay healthy.
Absolutely. So Austin, appreciate you coming on, and I know we're not going to be recording for a couple weeks. We got Canadian Thanksgiving for our American listeners. Yeah, we're the crazy people that have Thanksgiving in October, but the Thanksgiving Monday, look forward to seeing your Bills down in Atlanta playing my Falcons. Only have it once every 4 years, but looking forward to it.
Yeah, Sabres play Colorado at 12:30. That's more important.
True, but hey, we'll be able to watch both. That'll be even better.
I'll be working.
Oh yeah, I guess, yeah, forgot about that. But regardless of that, enjoy your Canadian Thanksgiving to all you out there. Thank you all that tuned in on the video version, and those that listened on your favorite on-demand audio platform. Be back with you all season long for our Sabres content. So for Austin Broad, my name is Brandon Caputo. That's it for another episode of Sabres Semantics right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. We'll talk again very soon. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.